Hello, everybody. Welcome to SCRR or SCRR. It stands for Scott's Comics Retro Review, which I know it's a mouthful. But anyway, this channel is dedicated to those who want to get in comic books and you're not sure where to start, or you are into comic books but you just haven't read in particular what I'm talking about. And I started out with 1986. I did 3 reviews on what I consider the best year in comics. My next review after that was the comic book that got me started in collecting, which was Jack Kirby's Commandy. Please take a look at those previous videos. And now I'm going to go into John Byrne's Iron Fist. I'm specifically talking about John Byrne's Iron Fist because John Byrne became the second artist whose work that I recognized just by looking at it. Jack Kirby's, of course, was the first one, and then John Byrne became the second one. Now, up until that point, I could recognize Jack Kirby, and there were comics that I liked and comics that I didn't like, but John Byrne's was the one that I could look at it and right away say, that's John Byrne. Now, when it comes to Iron Fist, I had seen Iron Fist. Iron Fist started out in a book called Marvel Premiere, and Marvel Premiere was an issue that what they would do is they would feature new stories and concepts, and if they did well, then they ended up graduating to their own book. And back then it was early 70s, and you didn't have comic book stores, and distribution was spotty. So you had to go, like for me to do my collections, I had to run around to like 5 different comic book stores to find the one after the one I previously purchased. And I had never seen any of these anywhere on the shelves that I can remember. This particular issue, I remember somebody had it. I don't remember who. A friend of mine. I had a small group of friends who liked comics, and I ended up getting it from him. This was before John Byrne started drawing. And I remember I got the issue somehow. I don't remember if I traded for it or if I just purchased it from the guy or if he just gave it to me, whatever. Then there's this one too, which Chris Claremont had already started writing. Chris Claremont, as some of you know, became like the X-Men writer for decades later on. I can't remember if he already started writing at this point, but writing the X-Men at this point. But this is another issue here where I remember a friend had, and I don't know where I got it from, but I ended up having it in my collection too. Now this particular issue is the one that I bought off the shelves and just off of the comic book spinner racks, from the stores. Now, of course, at this point, I had already heard of Iron Fist from my friends' books, which I had never seen. But I'd never seen them on the shelves. Excuse me, sorry about that. But anyway, look at that gorgeous cover. This is not John Byrne, however. This is Gil Kane. Gil Kane is another favorite of mine, and I'm not sure why I didn't come to recognize his work right away, but I had seen this, I picked it up, and then I opened it up, and I started looking at this in the store, and I was watching this, and I'm like, I really like this, and I was still young, so there's a lot of things I didn't know, but I did like the book, and I went ahead and bought it. Okay, I later on discovered that John Byrne was the artist. This was my first John Byrne book. Now, I didn't understand at that point that he graduated to. This was the last issue of Iron Fist in Marvel Premiere, and the next time you would see Iron Fist would be in his own book, and you had Chris Claremont and John Byrne together on that. Now I had again, distribution was spotty, and I'm not sure how the newsstand people purchased it, but I don't recall seeing a lot of Iron Fist on the shelves, and as a result, my collection was very spotty. By the way, what you're seeing here is not what I bought back then. All those books back then are gone. These are the ones that I've managed to pick up along the way for pretty cheap through the years since I lost the collection. In either case, this one in particular I remember picking up off the shelf. It's a beautiful cover by Dave Cockrum, and at the time I didn't really know his work, but I did see Iron Fist. I was like, oh, cool, Iron Fist, and I picked it up, and this storyline actually becomes one of my favorite storylines. John Byrne and John Byrne's the artist, Chris Claremont's the writer, and it starts off where John Byrne's getting attacked. I'm sorry, Iron Fist is getting attacked. And then he collapses, and they do what's known as a flashback, and they tell how he got into this situation. And he meets this guy, and he ends up fighting him. He has to pretend, he meets him as Danny Rand, and he has to pretend that he's not the Iron Fist. So he lets the guy throw him through a window. He falls several stories, and then he saves himself. But then he changes to Iron Fist, and he goes back in to fight the guys. And the guy surprised him with this triple nunchuck, and then what he did after that was they poisoned him and sent him out into the city. And as he's out in the city, he sent this guy. I'm forgetting his name. Sorry, it's been a long time, but this guy right here, the bad guy, Shocker. He called himself the Crime Lord of New York, and he sent all of his goons after Iron Fist. So that's what's going on. Iron Fist is out there. He's poisoned, and he's fighting people who are after him. And then, of course, I got this one off the stands, and I mean, look at that. Look how beautiful that is. John Byrne. So anyway, John Byrne, he eventually became one of my all-time favorite creators. And it was through his work here. Look at how beautiful that is. And back then, first appearance of Sabretooth. And we all know Sabretooth from the X-Men movies, if you're not familiar with comics. But this was his first appearance. It was in Iron Fist. And plot twist, everybody. Iron Fist kicked his butt. Anyway, I this right here is what's known as a Marvel Essential, and while I was still trying to fill in the holes on my collection here, this came out, and I ended up buying it. And what they did was they reprinted things in black and white, and the price was real cheap. I don't believe they make them anymore. The paper's fairly thin. It's newsprint paper. More Gil Kane, by the way. But I wanted to show you a little bit. I happen to like black and white. I know a lot of people don't like black and white, but one of the reasons I like it is I can see it without the color over it, blocking it. And I kind of wanted to show you an example, like with this page here and this page here. Let me put them next to each other so you can see. Back then, the paper wasn't the greatest, so the color didn't hold as well as it did now, and you were limited in your coloring. But I mean, I like to look at the difference between the two to see how it looks. Look how the line work is. It's different. I like stuff like that when it's in black and white. Anyway, I read through books like this all the time. I mean, look how beautiful that is. And here's a comparison for you, so you can kind of see. People do prefer the colors, and I get it. But I like to see the line work. The line work is done by the inker, so this is telling you how great the inker is. But you could also see what the artist was doing without the color. So anyway, I kind of like that too. Iron Fist is one of my favorite characters. This particular, I just wanted to show you this. Look how beautiful that is. I didn't want to grab the one in color, but this was John Byrne firing on all cylinders. He was really, really something. I mean, I still like John Byrne's work. Don't get me wrong, but he doesn't really do comic books anymore, so it's hard for me to say, yes, John Byrne's great. I mean, he'll always be great in my eyes, no doubt. Look how beautiful that is. This is when they fought the X-Men. This is when he met the X-Men for the first time. And what was funny was, at the time, with the publishing schedule, the X-Men book was behind, and it was coming out like every other month. And this one, I think, was also coming out every other month. No, this one was monthly. And John got the book. He was assigned the book, and he was trying to catch up. And the book, the X-Men book, he was in the middle of a storyline where the X-Men were out in space, and Wolverine ended up beating up an alien and taking his costume because his was torn to shreds. So what happened was is that this issue was drawn right around the time that Wolverine took the costume, which was drawn by Dave Cockrum. And when he took this book and he drew Wolverine in the costume because that was his current costume. And then the next issue of the X-Men, they were still in space, and he was wearing that costume still in space. Well, the next issue of the X-Men, when they show up back on planet Earth for the first time since they went into outer space, Wolverine rips off the old costume and puts on the new one. Well, if he did that, then why is he wearing a costume here? This is a mistake, and it was a mistake. No one really spotted it until the issues came out. No one in the offices, Marvel offices, spotted it until the issues came out. I think it's one of those funny things, you keep a track on. But anyway, John Byrne drawing X-Men when he was still kind of brand new to it, and that doesn't look like a John Byrne face. I think what they did was they had Dave Cockrum draw over John Byrne. Because that looks like this is definitely Dave Cockrum. That's not John Byrne. So I remember they were saying something like that. Dave Cockrum did something, and back in the offices after John Byrne turned the pages in. See, that's a John Byrne Storm, absolutely. And that looks like a John Byrne Wolverine. Anyway, I don't believe this one's available anymore. But if you check the links down below, there should be only one link, if I'm not mistaken. And it's called Iron Fist, the Epic Collection. And it'll have pretty much all of these, except for the last books at the end, which are when Iron Fist and Luke Cage first met and became friends. These were in the issues of Power Man's book, when Luke Cage's book was called Power Man. And it ended up in they changed the name of the book to Power Man and Iron Fist with issue number 50. But these 3 issues at the end are not included, but you have all of these in the Epic Collection. Every single one of these issues here. It includes Marvel Premiere 15 through 25, Iron Fist 1 through 15, and Marvel Team Up 63 and 64. And the Marvel Premiere number 25, all of the Iron Fists and the Marvel Team Ups are all drawn by John Byrne. So I do recommend that book. There'll be a link down below for you to get it. But this is an example of John Byrne. I ended up becoming a big fan of his, and it was from Iron Fist. So I have an affinity for both those characters. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. If you like it, please like, subscribe, share. Write some comments down below. I'd love to hear from you what you think. And this is Scott's Comic Retro Review. Have a great day.